talking about the independent map amendment being struck down by the Illinois Supreme Court. And joining us in studio right now is State Representative Tim Butler to get his reaction to what's going on with Illinois politics. Good morning, or how are you?
Morning, Bishop. Always good to be here in the cow pasture. It's always...
That's one way to say it, yeah. Are you talking about the state of Illinois? Or
well, one or the other, I guess. One or the other.
So what do you think? What do you think of this ruling from the state Supreme Court yesterday?
I'm disgusted, to be honest with you. I really am. This is pure politics at its finest, and you know, and I've thought a lot about this since last night, since the ruling came down last night, and you know, elections make a difference, and I can think of one election in particular that made a huge difference on this ruling. And it was the person who wrote the majority opinion. In 2000, Tom Kilbride had a very contested Supreme Court race against Carl Hawkinson. And Kilbride won by four points. And Carl Hawkinson was a fine member of the state Senate. He was a Harvard law grad. He was a state's attorney. He's a lawyer. And, you know, Mike Madigan and his political machine came in with almost $2.5 million to get Tom Kilbride elected to the Supreme Court. And it manifested 16 years later in this decision. And so when people go to the polls, as Andy Shaw just said, when people go to the polls, they need to remember that. And that $2.5 million investment that Mike Madigan made 16 years ago paid off last night. And I'm disgusted, to be honest with you.
The Illinois Supreme Court's dissenting opinion, I don't know if you've had a chance to read it, but
I've read the news reports and read some of the, you know, but I haven't read the opinion fully.
It's pretty scathing.
And go Bears with Bob Thomas.
Yeah, and Justice Thomas came out of the gate really just blasting the state's political system, saying that it's broken, saying that this essentially is now enshrining tyranny. As somebody who you've been appointed, you're up for election uncontested, which is one of those other issues altogether. Right. But you know, as somebody who's been in the legislature, do you see that happening when it comes to, you know, bills that Republicans want that just can't make it out of Rules Committee or whatever it may be?
You know, look, the person who holds the gavel has all the power, and you know, I don't deny that. But you can certainly set up rules of the House to make it more engaging. And I just got back from a conference up in Madison for 5 days, a bipartisan conference with legislators from across the Midwest. And there are plenty of other legislative bodies in the Midwest that run their institutions differently with supermajority Republicans in some case, where, you know, the minority has a stronger voice. The rules package that governs the rules of the House is passed at the beginning of every session, and ours is very restrictive. I had many bills, important bills that were agency bills that needed to get done, things that agencies advocated for, non-political bills really, that needed to get out, that just got bottled up in committees because I have an R behind my name. And you know, and how redistricting reform plays into this is we need more balance in the General Assembly. We are not a super majority Democrat state. Are we a blue state? Sure. I mean, on the presidential level, we're a blue state. But we're a lot closer politically than we're reflected in the General Assembly. And I use myself as an example. Yes, I got appointed last year. I've never been on the ballot before, and the primary was the first time that I was on the ballot. The Democrats drew this district, drew the 87th district, to pack in a lot of Republicans so they can create some other districts on the edge of my district. One is the Sioux Shear district. Right. The other is Mike Eunice's district, which is really a Democrat-leading district up north. So they can pack more Democrats into those. So what that has done is pack all the Republicans into my district, and Democrat looks at my district and says, I'm not going to run there. So here's Tim Butler. I've never been on the ballot, and I don't have an opponent. Great for me. It's very bad for the citizens of Illinois. We need to have more competition in these seats, and the redistricting reform would have allowed for that.
Will you take up the cause and probably push for some kind of redistricting reform to be voted on by the legislature?
We voted on one.
Yeah, right.
Jack Franks had a bill. It got 108 votes. I mean, it was a cynical attempt, I think, because we knew that the Senate was going to pass a different version, and the two sides would never come together. We knew that was going to happen, but I mean, we didn't think Jack Franks' version was the best, but we all voted for it because we believe him, because we're going to put our money where our mouth is. If there's a redistricting playing on the table, we're going to vote for it. And that's what we did. And I think it showed that there's a lot of support in the General Assembly for redistricting reform. A lot of my Democrat colleagues believe in it as well. And, I think when you have the Speaker who controls the judges on the Supreme Court, whose lawyer advocated to get rid of this, I think that's all you need to know for a guy that's been in office since I was 3 years old. And I'm going to be 50 next year.
I was going to say, he's been in office longer than I've been alive.
I'll tell you, I mean, Greg, you've had me on your show enough. I usually try to keep it pretty calm. I'm really upset by this because I think this is pure politics at its finest. And I think I truly wish somebody in the Democrat majority in the Supreme Court would have had enough guts to say this is the right thing to do when almost 600,000 people in our state had signed on to this.
Well, and I think that's the crucial point here is more than 500,000 signatures were ultimately verified. And the Constitution does allow for citizen-led initiatives. But does this signify now there's no real citizen-led initiative ability in the state of Illinois?
We've had one, correct? I mean, the cutback amendment, Quinn's cutback amendment that reduced the size of the Illinois House, I think that's the only one that's ever been on the ballot. The only other constitutional amendments that get on the ballot are ones that come out of the General Assembly. We'll have one on the ballot this fall for the Transportation Road Fund lockbox, but that was done because the General Assembly created legislation to be able to get that on the ballot. Those are the two ways to get it on the ballot. Yeah, I think it's almost impossible for an average citizen to lead an effort to get something on the ballot to get it on there. I don't think it should be an easy process to be able to do that by any means. I think there needs to be a high bar, but obviously the bar that we have in Illinois is impossible, and that's not good government. And I'm sure that's not what was intended by the 1970 Constitution.
State Representative Tim Butler, thank you so much for taking time with us this morning and sharing your thoughts. And we'll definitely be talking to you again, especially as we get closer to veto session. So
sounds good.
Awesome. News Talk 94.7 and 970 WMAY.